Her husband left the family to chase after a wealthy older woman. Her daughter chose a life of luxury over family. But now, both of them are knocking on the door, looking for the woman they once abandoned. They made the choice to leave. Now they want to come back. Is there still a place for them? Follow this emotional and heartbreaking story with us. Lisa used to be the kind of woman people looked at and thought, she seems like she's got it together. She was the head nurse at Portland Central Hospital. Over 2 decades of non-stop work. Never complained, never made a fuss. First one in on the morning shift, last one out at night. The kind of person any hospital would kill to have. As for her home life, you could call it stable. Kind of. Her husband, David, was a personal trainer at a pretty upscale fitness center. He wasn't famous or anything, but for a guy pushing 50, staying ripped and keeping a steady stream of clients was already a win. From the outside, the couple still looked like a solid team. They weren't the hand-holding in the park romantic type, but they never argued in public either. Everything just moved along, like warm water, steady and calm. Lisa carried most of the financial weight. Her nurse's salary wasn't bad, and with stable benefits, she could support the whole household, even during the months when David didn't have many clients. Whenever he complained about the unpredictable income, Lisa would give a small smile and say, "It's okay. Just focus on staying healthy and don't mess up your back again." They had a daughter named Mia, 20 years old, studying fashion design in New York. She was their pride and joy. Even though she had a scholarship, Mia often called home asking for extra money, for short courses, for sketching supplies, or just to cover rising living costs because the city is so expensive. Lisa always found a way. She never complained, not once. Things started to shift around last May. David began talking more and more about a new client named Claudia, a widow in her early 50s, big in real estate investment. Her name came up pretty often, but at the time, Lisa didn't think much of it. What man doesn't like talking about a successful client? She drives a Bentley. Her watch is probably worth $100,000, but she's serious about training. Never complains, David said one morning, pouring coffee without taking his eyes off the sports news. Lisa remembered the first time she saw Claudia. Tall, platinum blonde curls, oversized black sunglasses, high heels, red lipstick. The kind of woman who changes the energy in the room just by walking in. But Lisa only smiled to herself and thought, so that's the type. After that, David started dressing differently. New athletic gear, a new cologne, stronger than usual, slightly sweet, almost seductive. Lisa noticed, but she told herself, maybe it's just his age. Men around this time of life tend to get caught up in a midlife crisis. He started going out more in the evenings. At first, it was private training sessions for VIP clients. Then it turned into, Claudia had a last-minute schedule change, or she's going through something stressful and needs to work it out with exercise. Sound familiar? It did to Lisa too. But she didn't question it. Not because she fully trusted him. She was just too tired to bother coming up with accusations. One time, Mia called asking for an extra $300 because the school suddenly required some additional materials. Lisa said she'd send it, but afterward, her bank account dropped to under $100. She sat in silence the whole evening, thinking about the unfinished mortgage, the hospital bill from her recent checkup, and that cologne. One Friday night, while David was in the shower, he left his phone on the dining table. A message lit up the screen. Lisa hadn't planned to look, but then she saw the words. "Last night made me feel young again. Claudia." Her chest tightened like someone was squeezing her heart. Fingers trembling, she tapped the screen. The message came with a photo. David and Claudia sitting across from each other at an upscale Italian restaurant, candlelight flickering off glasses of red wine. David was looking straight at Claudia, smiling. The kind of smile Lisa hadn't seen in a long time. No one wants to see their suspicions confirmed. But in that moment, Lisa knew. Everything had been cracking for a while now. She just hadn't wanted to face it. Lisa didn't say a word that night. She didn't scream, didn't confront him. She just sat down quietly and watched the phone screen light up again and again. Messages from Claudia kept rolling in, one after another, like they weren't just acquaintances, but something way more intimate. Words like, "I miss you, I want you to myself today, last night was absolutely perfect." Lisa read every line, then read them again. The photo was clear too. Claudia leaning in toward David, red lips smiling like nothing in the world could bother her. And David wasn't holding back. That look in his eyes wasn't the look of a man keeping things strictly professional. The next morning, as David sat down at the table, Lisa placed the phone in front of him. "What is this?" she asked. Direct, no sugarcoating, no way out. David glanced at the screen. It took him exactly 1 second to realize what she'd seen. But instead of panicking or stumbling over an excuse, he just let out a long breath and shrugged. "She's just a client. You're overthinking it." Lisa stared at him without blinking. "So I'm overthinking a photo of the two of you having wine and candlelight dinner at a fancy Italian restaurant? Claudia invited me. She's the VIP type, you know that. Likes to do things in her own way. And the message about how you made her feel young again?" David set his water glass down. The sound hit the table sharper than usual. "Lisa, you're acting like you don't trust me at all, because you haven't given me a reason to." Then came the silence, tight as a stretched wire. David stood up, grabbed his car keys. "I'm going to work." In the days that followed, there was no apology, no explanation. David didn't try to clear anything up. If anything, he grew colder. Came home later, dressed sharper, got a haircut, bought new shoes. One time Lisa saw a small note. "Claudia, 8 p.m. the 9s. She didn't say anything, but she wrote it down, carefully, noted the time he left, the time he got back. She started to feel less like a wife and more like a detective. One Wednesday night, she turned off the lights early and pretended to be asleep. David said he had a late training session. But this time, Lisa quietly followed his car. She kept just enough distance. With her phone's GPS, she could see he wasn't heading toward the gym. Instead, he drove into the wealthy west side of the city, the kind of neighborhood regular folks like them had no reason to enter unless they had serious business there. David pulled up to a building called Elliott Heights, a penthouse complex with private security and an electric gate. Lisa parked 2 blocks away, killed the lights, and sat still in her car for 3 hours. At 11:10 p.m., David came out. Laughing. Really laughing. Not the polite smile he used with patience. This was the kind of laugh that came easy, like life was light and effortless. Claudia stood at the door in a fur coat, sent him off with a kiss on the cheek, and said something that made him laugh again. Lisa couldn't remember how she drove home. Her head buzzed, but inside everything was dead silent. No tears, just a wide, empty space, like someone had sucked all the air out of her chest and walked away with it. The next morning, she waited for David in the kitchen. No coffee, no toast like usual. Just one sentence. "You were there last night. I saw you." David didn't react like before, didn't deny it, didn't even try to lie. He sat down, exhaled like he'd finally dropped the act. "I knew this day would come." Lisa said nothing. "I'm tired, Lisa," David said. "Tired of always being the one in the background. Tired of depending on my wife to live, to pay the bills, to just exist like some kind of freeloader." "No one made you a freeloader," Lisa replied, her voice flat. "No one had to. I've always felt like one. But Claudia, she makes me feel like I matter. She looks at me like I'm someone worth admiring." "And me? After all these years I've stood by you?" "You're a good person, Lisa, but sometimes being good doesn't make someone feel like their life's worth living." The words hit like a cold blade, not sharp, not bloody, but they cut right through. David stood up and walked into the bedroom. 2 hours later, he came out with 2 suitcases, a new suit jacket draped over his arm. He didn't look at Lisa, didn't say another word. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Claudia's got room for me." "What about this house?" "You keep it. You're the one paying the mortgage anyway." David left. The door closed behind him. No slam. No echo. Just Lisa standing in the kitchen, holding the mortgage bill that had arrived that morning. The payment amount had gone up, adjusted interest rate. A bold red "overdue" stamped right across the top. The house was quiet in a strange, unfamiliar way. Only the low hum of the fridge and the kitchen light casting a pale glow over her bare feet. She stood there, motionless, the paper trembling slightly in her hand, as if standing still long enough might turn everything that had just happened into a bad dream. But it didn't. It was real. And reality, as she'd just learned, is never kind when it turns cold. Lisa didn't know how long she stayed in the kitchen after David walked out with his 2 bags. Maybe hours, maybe just 10 minutes. Time after that wasn't measured by the clock anymore. It was counted in monthly bills, in dinners for one, in long, silent nights without the sound of someone walking into the bedroom. Mia found out just 2 days later. The call came while Lisa was folding laundry. "You're kidding, right?" Her voice cracked, equal parts shock and anger. "Dad really did that? With her?" Lisa didn't say much, just nodded, even though Mia couldn't see it. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Mia whispered, "I'm coming home." She came back that weekend. Her face was drawn from lack of sleep, eyes bloodshot. Lisa held her tight for the first time in a long time. They sat together for most of the evening, Mia repeating over and over, "I can't believe he did that to you, to both of us. I'm never forgiving him. You're not alone, Mom. I'm here." Lisa didn't cry, but her throat tightened. In that moment, "I'm here" felt like the only life raft in a sea that wouldn't stop tossing. But just a few weeks later, things started to shift. Mia came home one Friday afternoon, walking in with a soft cream leather handbag, brand new heels, and the latest phone model. Lisa noticed. She didn't ask right away. But that evening, as they sat down to dinner, she glanced at her daughter and asked, as casually as asking about the weather, "Who bought you all that?" Mia smiled, hesitated just a bit. "Claudia said she wanted to help. She's got some connections in the fashion industry. Said she'd introduce me to people in New York." Lisa set her fork down. "That so?" "I didn't ask, Mom. She offered, said I have potential, that I shouldn't let family drama slow down my career." Lisa nodded, said nothing more. But that night, she couldn't sleep. She didn't blame Mia, not right away, but a quiet unease began to grow inside her. And no matter how hard she tried, it stayed with her all through the week. And then it kept happening. Every time Mia came home, there was something new. A watch, a laptop bag, a perfectly tailored dress. Lisa asked only once more, this time about tuition for the next term. "Claudia covered it," Maya said, eyes still on her phone. Lisa looked at her daughter. "Why didn't you tell me?" Maya shrugged. "You don't have the money, Mom. And I didn't want to stress you out more. You're already stretched thin with the house." Lisa pressed her lips together. "You know I would have found a way, like I always have. But I don't want you to do that anymore. Sometimes pushing through everything isn't a good thing." The words, meant to sound mature and thoughtful, sent a chill down Lisa's spine. Mia was justifying it, and Lisa realized she was slowly losing her daughter. The next week, Mia didn't come home. The week after that, still no visit. When Lisa called, Mia said she was busy prepping her internship portfolio. "Claudia's letting me use her workspace. She has a whole showroom on the top floor of her penthouse." Lisa didn't respond. She just wished her daughter luck, and hung up. By the third time Mia came home, the difference wasn't just in the bags or the jewelry. It was in her attitude, in the way she looked around the house, like everything was too old, too small, too lacking in quality of life. Lisa made a simple dinner. As she handed Mia her plate, she said softly, "I can see you've changed." Mia set her phone down and sighed. "Mom, I've grown up. I need to choose my own path." "Are you choosing your own path? Or just letting someone with more money lead you down theirs?" Mia frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Lisa looked at her, not angry, just sad. "You know exactly what I mean." Mia stood up. "Don't try to hold on to me the way you tried to hold on to Dad. You need to learn to let go." Lisa didn't answer, but her heart dropped to the floor. That sentence, that tone, sounded just like David. That night, while doing laundry, Lisa overheard Mia on the phone in the hallway. "Yeah, I think so too. You're like a second mom to me." Lisa froze. She didn't walk out. She didn't listen any further. She just waited until the door closed, then quietly returned to her room. The next morning, Lisa woke earlier than usual. She opened Mia's bedroom door and looked around. The same bed her daughter had slept in all through high school. The desk still covered in design sketches. And in the third drawer, the hand-sewn handkerchief Lisa had made when Mia left for college. She opened the closet and gently folded each piece of clothing Mia had left behind. Not to pack it up, not to erase her, just to set things in order, as if quietly admitting that a chapter had closed. She didn't cry. She simply wiped the dust off the old photo frame on the nightstand, the one from their first camping trip at the coast. Mia had clung to her hand that night, afraid of the crashing waves. Now the waves had carried her away, And Lisa didn't know if there was any shoreline left close enough to hold her. She didn't put the frame back up that day. She just turned it face down, then stood up and walked out of Mia's room. From that day on, no one called asking for money. No text saying, "I'll be home this weekend." The sounds in the house grew quieter, then disappeared altogether. The house had always been spacious. Now it felt like even the air had gone hollow. But the bills? They didn't go anywhere. The mortgage bills still came every month, right on schedule. David didn't pay a cent, even though his name was still on the deed. Lisa called a lawyer. The response was blunt. No divorce agreement, no formal asset division. You'll have to carry it on your own if you want to keep the house. She hung up, and for the first time in years, her hands shook as she counted the cash. To keep the house, she picked up every shift she could. Day shift at the hospital, then night shifts in the ER over in the maternity wing. Some nights she didn't come home, just dozed in a waiting room chair between shifts. Her body started to sound the alarm. A dull ache in her back, pounding headaches whenever the lighting changed, hair falling out so much she had to tie it back just to keep it from catching in her mask. No one asked if she was okay. But that made sense. Everyone's tired, everyone has their own problems. Lisa didn't expect anyone to notice anyway. As long as she could work, as long as her name was still on the shift schedule, she was useful. And useful people don't get left behind. But the world doesn't run on loyalty. In early March, the hospital manager called Lisa into a meeting. It lasted exactly 11 minutes. The reason? The hospital is transitioning to a new digital system. We need staff who are flexible, tech-savvy, a string of corporate phrasing, but the real message was simple. Lisa no longer fit. She took the envelope with her severance pay and went home. Opened a drawer. Saw the wedding ring tucked in a small wooden box, the last relic of a marriage long since rotted. She sold it. Got a little money. Not much, but enough to cover 2 months of the mortgage, if she cut back on everything else. She sold her old car too, the sedan she'd driven to work for the past 12 years. From then on, she walked to the bus stop every day. She applied everywhere. No hospitals called back. It's a competitive market, someone at a medical center told her. Lots of younger folks out there, cheaper, faster with tech. Eventually, she landed a night shift job at a small corner pharmacy on the south side of the city. The hourly pay was low, no insurance, but it was steady. She checked prescriptions, stocked shelves, mopped floors when needed. No one knew she used to coordinate a ward with over 20 patients. No one asked, and she didn't tell. One rainy morning, after her shift, Lisa stood at the bus stop. Her uniform was soaked through. Her feet ached from standing 8 hours straight. It was so cold her hands had gone numb. Her dinner bag hung low on one shoulder. She looked around. People rushed by, heads down, moving fast. No one noticed her standing there. And really, why would they? A few years ago, David would have brought her medicine, made soup, put on a comedy to make her laugh. A few months ago, Mia had hugged her, crying, promising she'd always be there. Now, even a simple question like, "Are you okay?" didn't come from anyone. But Lisa didn't complain. She didn't reach out to anyone, didn't text David, didn't call Mia. She held on to one thought: I will live. Even if it means working night shifts, eating instant noodles, standing in the rain, I will live, as long as I don't have to beg anyone for anything. That night, when she got home, she changed out of her damp uniform, pulled 2 stale slices of bread and a boiled egg from the cupboard. The kitchen light glowed a soft, flickering yellow, buzzing slightly every time the wind slipped through the cracks in the door. She sat at the table. No TV, no music, just the faint whistle of wind outside the window. Lisa took a slow bite of bread. Not because she was hungry, but because tonight she could still feed herself. Alone. No one needed to serve her. No one needed to feel sorry. And that, for now, was enough. 4 months after that night, Lisa ate bread alone under the flickering kitchen light. Claudia's name started popping up in local news reports. At first, it was just rumors. An investigation tied to the string of real estate companies she owned. Money laundering, tax fraud, using investment fronts to funnel shady money overseas. The kind of headlines Lisa no longer cared much about. But that face, that smile, still lived clearly in her memory. Claudia, the woman who'd taken her husband and daughter with nothing more than a wink and a black card. Less than 2 weeks later, the rumors turned into fact. Police raided the main office. The penthouse was sealed off. Claudia disappeared from the media. No statements, no denials. Not a word to David. Not a dime to anyone. David hadn't seen it coming. He lived like it would all last forever, as if lounging by a pool in a polo shirt with a smug smile was enough to secure a place in someone like Claudia's world. When it all came crashing down, he had no idea what to do. The penthouse was seized. Claudia vanished, and suddenly there was no one footing the bills. David had no savings, no lease, no steady job. He called a few old clients. None picked up. Sent his resume to his former gym. Got turned down. Sorry, we're hiring younger trainers. Lower costs, they said. He heard the same words Lisa had once told him. No one made you a freeloader. Now, he finally understood. Mia didn't escape the fallout either. Her internship was canceled. Claudia had been her sponsor, and Claudia no longer existed in any legal sense. The school demanded full tuition for the next term, no payment plans allowed. Her roommates began to distance themselves when she couldn't cover her share of the rent. She started skipping classes, missed her presentations, and then one day, she quietly withdrew from school. Father and daughter scraped together what little they had left, a bit of cash, a few changes of clothes, passports, phones. They rented a rundown motel room 40 minutes outside the city. Mold in the corners, hot water that lasted 5 minutes, if that. Mia barely spoke those days. David made phone calls non-stop, knocked on every training center door he could find. No one was hiring. By the 3rd week, they couldn't afford to extend the stay. The front desk clerk pointed at the sign, "Checkout is 11 a.m. No exceptions." David called Lisa 3 times. No answer. On the 4th, he sent a message. Just a few words. Just asking for a few days. For Mia, not for me. Lisa read the message while folding laundry at the pharmacy. She stared at the screen for exactly 30 seconds. Then she turned it off and kept folding, as if she'd never seen it at all. That night, the rain poured hard. Wind slammed the roadside barriers against the walls like a warning knock. But the real knock came around 10:30. The first 3 taps were hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they should even be knocking. Then came a flurry of louder, firmer knocks. Lisa sat still in the living room, no lights on, didn't peek through the curtain, but eventually she got up, walked to the door, and opened it. David stood there, soaked head to toe, jacket torn, his face hollowed out by fear and fatigue. Behind him, Mia clutched a torn suitcase. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes, holding the strap of her bag like it was the last thing keeping her upright. "Lisa," David stammered, "we have nowhere else to go." Lisa looked at them, and inside her there was no storm, no heartbreak, no tears, just emptiness. A stillness so wide and deep that not even the two of them could fill it anymore. They weren't family now. They weren't part of the life she was fighting to hold on to. She said nothing. No yes, no no. She just closed the door, quietly. The lock clicked shut with a soft sound, barely louder than a breath, but heavy enough to mark the end. After that rainy night, Lisa slept straight through till morning. No jolts awake, no tossing and turning, just deep, dreamless rest. For the first time in what felt like forever, she woke without the weight in her chest. Nothing looked different the next morning. Same familiar kitchen, same old fridge, the floor still cold under bare feet, but something inside her had shifted. No more warning sirens in her head. No more questions like, where did I go wrong? Will they come back? Should I have opened the door? Everything now was just still. Lisa went on living, kept working, bought only what she needed, sometimes stopped to look at the neighbors' flower pots on her walk home. No one shared the house, no one waited for her. But no one brought more disappointment either. Life had become like a still lake, no ripples, no flash, but clear enough to finally see herself in it. Every now and then, a few neighbors would make small talk when they saw Lisa carrying groceries. An old woman from a few units down once asked casually, "I think I saw that tall guy, David was it, wandering around here a few days ago?" Lisa just smiled. No nod, no shake of the head, just a thin, polite smile. Enough to let people know she didn't care. Another time, a delivery kid mentioned seeing a girl with brown hair who looked a lot like Mia, waiting at the bus stop on the corner. Lisa nodded. Probably just someone who looks similar. No one pressed further, and truthfully, no one really wanted to know more. A year later, while waiting for the bus at the end of her street, a familiar face from her old days in healthcare sat down beside her. They made small talk, then the person said, "I heard Mia's working part-time as a retail assistant at that clothing store in the mall. And David? He's doing food deliveries now. Looks pretty rough." Lisa wasn't surprised, didn't feel much of anything really. In fact, Claudia's name had vanished from conversation a long time ago. No headlines, no sightings, no one knew where she'd gone, and no one cared to find out. One crisp autumn day, with the air just cool enough to sting her cheeks, Lisa passed by the old neighborhood, the place she once called home with David and Mia. No reason, just walking. Near the bus stop, she saw a man step out carrying a heavy paper bag. He limped slightly, coat frayed at the collar, hat pulled low over his face. David. He didn't see her. And Lisa didn't call out. She looked for a second, then turned away. No anger, no bitterness, nothing at all. Just a stranger she used to know. Someone she once loved, once protected, once forgave more times than she could count, but who no longer held even a corner of space in her heart. Later that year, an old coworker texted Lisa. Would she be interested in coming back to the hospital? They were opening a new clinic. Administrative role, no night shifts, no chaos, steady environment, decent pay. Lisa thought about it for a day, then nodded. This time she didn't go back out of duty. Not to feed anyone, not to save a house, not to hold on to someone who didn't want to stay. She went back because she wanted to rise on her own terms. To live without bitterness, without dragging old stories behind her. The office was small, her desk sat near a window. Lisa brought only one photo, a sunlit morning by the sea. No people, no names. She placed it on the shelf, then began organizing the files, neat, deliberate, just like the way she was putting her life back together. Not long after, someone asked her, "Do you ever regret any of it?" Lisa smiled, a real smile, and said, "Forgiveness isn't about letting someone come back, it's about setting yourself free, so you don't have to look back anymore." Some losses don't need tears, some betrayals don't need explanations. And sometimes, letting go is the only way to hold on to yourself. Lisa didn't need to win the emotional war. She didn't need to get her husband back or hold on to her daughter. She just needed to keep living in a way where no one could hurt her anymore. Because sometimes forgiveness isn't about letting someone return. It's about giving yourself permission to move forward, light, unburdened, no longer dragging the cuts of the past. What about you? If you were Lisa, would you have opened the door that night? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Love Stories so you won't miss more emotional, layered stories like this one. Because drama doesn't just happen on stage, it's woven into real life. And we tell these stories so you can feel more clearly who's truly worth holding on to and who you're better off letting go.